You know how I always say, it's not so much what the regime does, it's how we respond. I know in this moment it can feel like too many corporate establishment Democrats are not responding in the way that actually is forming an opposition to fascism. Too many corporate Democrats, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, Dick Durbin, Kirsten Gillibrand, we could just go on and on, are failing to meet the moment. But that doesn't mean that all our elected officials are. It definitely does not mean that the American people are. We are organizing, resisting all over the place. I actually have a Substack coming out later today that touches on this very subject. Where can we find solutions? Who can we look to? And I know I made a really mad video yesterday talking about the ways the Democrats in the Senate are failing us. And I don't want people to paint with a broad brush. I don't think that the Democratic Party in Congress is really functioning as one party. There is this tension going on. I don't think that all of our elected officials actually are controlled opposition. And I want to take a second and point to a California representative, Jimmy Gomez. I think he and 11 other members of Congress brought a lawsuit against ICE. The case is Neguse et al. Versus ICE. And earlier this week, there was a ruling in this case, and I'm going to read from Rep. Gomez's website about it. Court rules Trump-Vance administration regime cannot block members of Congress from conducting oversight at federal immigration detention facilities, is the title of the article. A federal court temporarily stopped the Trump-Vance administration's policy blocking members of Congress from unannounced oversight visits to federal immigration detention facilities. The decision restores Congress's ability to conduct real-time oversight of how the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement detain individuals, including U.S. citizens, and how they are spending billions in taxpayer dollars. So this is a temporary reprieve while the case proceeds. Members of Congress have their ability to conduct this oversight restored while the lawsuit continues to work through the courts. Time and time again, since quite early in the year, we have seen ICE and DHS refuse members of Congress entry into ICE facilities. That's entirely illegal. It is within the scope of their jobs, of their authority for members of Congress to show up unannounced and conduct oversight visits. Like everything would-be authoritarians do, they try to claim power that they don't have, right? You're holding the line here. They come up to the line. They try and push you back. They see if you push to maintain your right. And if you don't, if they're able to push you back this way, they take this power right here and they grab it and they pocket it. And then they now say the new normal is back here. This line for legality, completely obliterated. Now we have this right, we have this power over you we didn't previously have. They don't take that power through legal means. They take it through bullying and intimidation, and they wait to see if you push back. That is why it matters far more how we respond than what the regime actually attempts to do. They are trying to see if we resist. They're trying to see if we're a bunch of little pussy bitches and if they can just plow right over us. Resistance in every facet is crucial. They are trying to claim power they do not have. When they take it, they will say that is the new normal. We now have this power and you have less. But if we resist, if we say, how dare you, that is not your authority, that is not your power, that is not legal, we will use every means necessary to resist, including members of Congress using the courts. That is the way that you check authoritarian creep. We're in a period of authoritarian breakthrough, but they are still trying to creep in every way that they can. We must resist through every legal means that we possibly can. We cannot pretend that the courts don't matter, because time and time again, they are holding the line. And please understand, incremental victories matter. This victory matters. We must celebrate every single win for us, for democracy, every time we choose to defend our rights, and we are supported by the courts, by the law, by other people, other elected officials. That really, really matters. The fascists cannot win if we continue to organize and resist. The only way they will ever win is if we lay down and give up. That's why their entire strategy is built on bullying and intimidation, because they're trying to make members of Congress give up in advance. or topple, fold like a chair at the slightest little nudge. And unfortunately, what we're seeing from corporate establishment Democrats like Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries is they never really have been an opposition party at all, right? They pre-folded, right? They were that stack of chairs against the wall. They never, ever, ever were fighting for us. They've paid lip service a little bit, right? But as my eldest kid said yesterday, corporate Democrats, they're right where they want to be. That's the sweet spot for them. When we're all pissed at the administration, but they don't actually have to expend any political capital. They don't actually have to work for us. They get to continue to profit off of a system where they work for foreign money, dark money, corporate money. And they pretend that they're not happy with the system, but they're not actually organizing to resist. And yet we see members, particularly progressive Democrats in the House, over and over and over again say, we're willing to actually be a real resistance party. We are actually willing to take the necessary steps to oppose fascism. Meanwhile, the surrender Dems in the Senate buckle the minute the airline industry and all of their other corporate interest is like, we need you to do what we want, even though it lets fascism advance. I truly believe there are lots of folks in the House who are actually our allies, who are not willing to concede anywhere, who are continuing in small ways we may never know about, we may never hear about. I happened to stumble across this news story because my friend shared it on social media. It didn't make headlines, but it's an important victory. Let me let Rep. Gomez tell you about it a little bit in his own words, and then I want to come back and conclude with some thoughts, because you may say, like, well, ICE is still in operation. They didn't stop ICE, so why does this matter? And I want to talk about that more in a minute, but first.
We just received a court order that reestablishes my authority under the Law Appropriations Act from 2024, Section 527. This court order reaffirms our authority as members of Congress, so I'm going to go inside and try to take a look. I'll let you know what I see afterwards. Hello, how you doing? What's your name? I'm Congressman Jimmy Gomez of the 34th Congressional District. We just received a court order.
Okay, thank you. Stand by. Congressman?
Yep.
Come on in.
All right. I just got out of the detention facility here in downtown LA. It's known as B18. They let me in and they follow the court order. There's 110 people in there. People shouldn't be kept more than 12 hours, but there have been some people in here that have been kept up to 72 hours. They have different holding tanks. Shouldn't have more than 50 people. This facility shouldn't be allowed to hold people more than 12 hours because they don't have a working kitchen. They provide chips and cookies and frozen burritos. If somebody needs to see a doctor or medical personnel, they have to get sent somewhere else. So this facility is not meant to hold people more than 12 hours, and they're going against that. But this is the first step of accountability. So I'm going to report that back to Congress, and then we're going to do some follow-up steps to find out if there's other information that we can get. But this is the first step of accountability over this administration.
Precisely. ICE and DHS, they don't want you to know the ways that they are violating the rights of people in detention facilities. They don't want any oversight because they are breaking the law over and over. They don't want transparency. They definitely don't want accountability, which is why it was so important that American Oversight and Democracy Forward, along with these members of Congress, brought this lawsuit. As the congressman said in his press release here, with this decision, the court reaffirms members of Congress's right to access federal immigration detention facilities without prior notice, a safeguard meant to prevent abuse, protect human rights, and ensure that taxpayer funds are not used in support of unlawful or inhumane practices. No, this doesn't stop what ICE is doing, but every act of resistance matters. Members of Congress use this data. Courts can use this evidence now and in the post-Trump era of justice. They want to get away with everything. They want us to lay down and do whatever horrible, illegal, terrible things they want to do. And it is crucial that we continue to resist. We continue not only to hold the line, but to push back, to defend our rights, to defend each other's rights. I cannot overstate how important it is that we count every small victory. Anytime we delay a terrible plan of the regime, anytime we are able to check and hold them accountable, anytime we are able to stop them from stripping away our rights, that is a victory that does matter. I know that we are right now in the thick of it, and it can be really difficult to see how all of these small victories add up when it doesn't feel like we are seeing giant sweeping victories. But that's how you resist fascism. It is a chipping away. Don't you see that's how we win? It is all of the cumulative small ways we refuse to give in.